Hello everyone, my name is Mitz, and here we are back at Higurashi When They Cry. So it looks like this final installment is gonna do double teamwork of following along with Rika stopping Mio Takano from doing her grand evil act, and we're learning about Takano's backstory. And it seems like just from the very first chapter of this alone, it's definitely gonna go down a whole thing of trying to understand the villain even much more. It still follows along with the themes of Higurashi itself, but now we have to contend with I guess, feelings of literally we don't know how many times Rika went through a giant goddamn loops, honestly, where pretty much she died, and I'm assuming almost before anything else bad happened. I don't think she even realized anything about even now about the gas disaster, that she technically killed the entire town like so many other times over. I mean, for her, for Mia, obviously it was only one time, but Rika's a whole bunch of different things. It was always her several thousands of times over, which is gonna be a lot of feelings to somewhat try to get over or contend with, even if they end up to not the very least of forgive Mio, but the same, like, but literally just, what was the best word to say this? Understand. Let's go with that. We're not going to use big words of forgiveness for her, honestly. All that, because I don't. By this point, it's completely almost unforgivable again. Of like, even if like there was a point where Mio like had a grudge against most of the people in town, like for example the elders, based on what happened. Like if that orphanage was anything nearby, Hinamizawa itself, then she basically also condemned literally everyone else who basically was there, who got there new, who's like newcomers and all that, and a bunch of other people like moved there and anything like that. She's also killing all of them to the innocent ones, technically speaking. So and then doing a giant cover up, and even even by extension, some people who live in Okonomiya and some extension too, honestly, because there's some people who live there and like know about the residents there, honestly. Even if the government doesn't tend to go after people in Okonomiya, I can definitely think of there's some few stragglers. In thinking about it, does that, well, since Shinya technically doesn't die by like, unless her whole death was a cover up, and like if the gas disaster extended to Okonomiya itself, then like the cover up story, quote unquote, all the way to there, that means either she was pushed to Okonomiya and then died because of the after effects of the virus itself, or legitimately speaking, they already realized that Shion was gonna be a hindrance from what Takano has like seen and met for little, and decided to kill her off too, and frame that as well as a suicide. So yeah, I don't. It's one of those things. I don't exactly prepare to do all this with like actually like forgiving her and all that. It makes the only thing, the background and stuff like this for this makes it so as you understand the villain. You understand now. There's only several times where I've seen like people actually do horrible things, these kind of stories, and then even when I know exactly what they did, it's either like on this level of Takano, like technically just wanted to have a god complex, or literally the villain has everything calculated down, and has a vendetta against every single person they're going against, or they have a good reason, at least to them, why they like kill or do horrible things to them or just ruin their own life. Like those people's lives, honestly. Hmm. Yeah, and the story's gonna go back and forth on whether I guess how Kano got into Tokyo, honestly, and everything like that, and Rika, honestly, trying to say all this to her friends and all that. So Rika, you know what we talked about before, okay? You know what to say. Slam your fist down in a club meeting, and there you go. Okay, Rika, when's your time to shine anyway? When is your time to shine? Banquet the back end. Over. One more speaker, then the toast starts. Are you ready? This is the back end. We're ready. We can't hear anything from inside, so please give us a cue when the speech is wrapping up. Listen up. 10 bottles of beer per table. What? Make sure to deliver them to your areas smoothly. Young hotel workers dressed smartly in bow ties pulled bottle after bottle out of the beer cases, preparing for the toast. They waited for their cue to serve the drinks while listening through the intercom. At a normal party, they could put bottles of beer on the table ahead of time, but if there was a lecturer before the party, then they couldn't. Guests don't mind sushi going dry due to a long speech. They don't like seeing their tables get wet with condensation from the bottles of beer. And more than anything, they certainly don't want to drink warm beer in room temperature. That's why beer has to be served right before a toast. Like, just see many people just, like, scurrying around, witches and all that, and waiters just going all around by the end of a speech. Like, just get handed a goddamn champagne bottle per person as the person on the podium just raises their glass. A toast! And only just, it's, like, very lickety-split, honestly. Everyone just gets it right then. Like, oh, okay, when's the toast happening? Oh, I see them coming out of the kitchen area. Okay, it's coming. However, there's always a speech before a toast. And usually a long one, 3 hours long. Especially a big party like this. There are lots of guests that give speeches, so it's extremely difficult to know when to serve. The reason, the bottles end up sitting outside the banquet room, and people end up drinking warm beer anyway. Well, once you put in coolers or, like, ice, barrels or buckets. There were several dozen tables with white tablecloths on them in the banquet room. Approximately 8 people were sitting at each table, so there were at least a few hundred people in the room, and you were going to put 10 beer bottles on each table. That's not going to evenly divide up to everyone, you know. The banquet room was filled with excitement. There are many plates of many different kinds of food on each table. I'm assuming this is actually going to, maybe Mio again, honestly. We're gonna several try to first about getting back straight for her, and then the things go down. A sushi platter, a sashimi platter, a fruit platter. Also, along the wall, there were cooks ready to serve fresh sashimi. All the guests appeared to be well-mannered gentlemen, and were clearly notable people in various different fields. The huge and beautiful chandelier above them clearly indicated that this hotel had a status good enough for these famous people. I'm getting flashbacks to the Gatewater Hotel. An elderly gentleman was giving a lengthy speech on the stage before making a toast. Usually people don't like such long speeches, especially if it's before toast. But the guests occasionally shouted, "Yes! Yes!" and sometimes gave him loud applause, filling the room with their fervor. Well, maybe fervor was a pleasant way to put it. It's probably more accurate to say the excitement was bizarre. Which country would actually teach people not to show respect towards their own flag? There are no others. It's happening only in Japan. Oh, okay, yeah, I kind of figured it was some, it's the Tokyo meeting group. Okay, they're talking about all this now. Yay. That's right, that's right! It's forcing people to respect their national flag and anthem and instruction to their freedom. That's a foolish idea. Do I need to say anything about this? No. Listen, love for one's national flag and anthem comes naturally to all. Comes naturally. To know ourselves, to know our culture, to understand our history and our country itself. Those are the things that make you realize that you are a Japanese citizen. That make you understand the part you play as a citizen to this country. Look, I'm American and I learned all about the past. Of, like, even my own thing, even my own time. There's not a lot of good things the government has done, both to, people in the past, people have made good change, so shut your trap, you goddamn old man. And the feeling you get from that love is towards your own country. However, those anti-Japan teachers are proclaiming that as militaristic brainwashing. Those stupid claims are wrong. What are those people doing anyway? They're teaching our children to hate them being Japanese. They're the ones brainwashing them for the self-destructive education. Or, they're just saying individualistic freedom, stuff like that. Yeah. They're teaching our children that Japan should be ashamed of itself. They should be ashamed of being Japanese. I can't say anything about that, but I feel like that's an exaggeration, you sir. Forget who you are and deny your country. That's what they're teaching them. These innocent children listen and believe such nonsense. Of course they do. They go to school to learn things, right? Their teachers teach them that. Of course the children believe it. And there's a whole thing of him comparing, contrasting philosophy, stuff like that. See him, one of them, like, believes in what's, I guess, more morally right or anything like that. Or at least, I guess, subjectively right is a better way to put it. Can you believe such a corruption exists? We must do something about this country's education now, no matter what it takes. Is this the person on the podium, or just someone from the table shouting up there? I think it's funnier if it's from someone in the audience itself. A sound of applause filled the banquet room. All the gentlemen agreed, and expressed that they felt the same way by cheering him on. After that, a gentleman wearing a cloth sash approached the stage. Okay, it's all stage. The hall welcomed him onto the stage and another round of thunderous applause. A roused theme from a popular drama series played as he took the stage, but it was entirely unnecessary before the overwhelming applause. Okay. Okay, you gotta hype everyone up with that before you say a single word in your mouth. Okay, you probably have some great things to say, honestly, if you play that up. The man's sash carried his name written in large letters, along with the name of the prefecture he was running for office in. Let me introduce you to a patriot. Blankun. I never heard that starting before. Blankun, huh? Nice. This man has served the former governor as his right-hand man as director of the office of the governor for many years, supporting the prefecture's government for a long time. Since the previous governor has decided to retire, he's appointed as the next governor. Unfortunately, we have those anti-Japan teachers in our prefecture. While they proclaim freedom of education and freedom of thought, they're shamelessly forcing anti-Japan education down on our children. They don't teach real history, they teach our children that everything was Japan's fault. I'm slowly just now, like, almost connected my brain of something that's happening right now in the present about this kind of thing somewhere right now, and I'm getting riled up now. God damn it. They don't even mention the true purpose of the Greater East Asian Prosperity Sphere, or all those who fought to save Asian people from Western control. They don't even talk about how many Asian countries are actually Western colonies before Japan stood up for our freedom during the war. Our country's recovered amazingly since then, yet our children don't know any of that, because those teachers don't teach them. How truly, truly sad. I mean, if all that was true, as he said, maybe like those teachers are actually just focusing on other things, honestly. I mean, it's a whole, like, weird thing of some teachers can't cover everything. At the same time, they more focus on like larger things anyway, like that, but I don't know anything about the Japanospheres they mentioned up here or anything like that, so don't take anything I say, like, honestly. I am an American going through a Japanese originated game, so I don't have the know-with-all for Japanese politics. I can't stand the fact that those anti-Japan teachers are actually teaching our children alongside those teachers who take teaching seriously. They are insulting to our educational institutions. I'll become a governor and get rid of those teachers. I'll straighten out our education system and make sure our children will grow up to be decent young people who carry on Japan's future. He, Blankun, announces his candidacy for next year's prefectural governorship. We appreciate your support for him. I promise. I will straighten out Japan's education system. Thank you for your support. Yeah, just harkening to another educational problem right now. Yay. Yeah, history loves to repeat itself. Yeah. Again, the banquet room filled with applause. The man was receiving a standing ovation. I probably need to explain a bit about this banquet before you misunderstand. It wasn't the conference of a political association, or a lecture by a political candidate. Yeah, pretty much that's obvious to see, honestly. If it was, then we have a lot of serious problems on our hand right now. It was hard to believe, but this is nothing more than a meeting of a college's alumni association. A college? Everyone should be familiar with what those are. Whether it's elementary school, junior high school, or college. Once you graduate from one of those, you'll normally belong to an organization of alumni. You receive invitations for reunions where you enjoy talking about the good old days. However, there are many different types of such organizations. Some are simple, and some are united with much tighter bonds. And once an organization becomes united with those tight bonds, it's no longer a simple organization of alumni. Rather, it becomes a significant faction known as the Alma Mater clique. In Japanese society, it's traditional for graduates to form tighter bonds that go beyond the level of organization. I can see that. Also, the more superior the alma mater, I'm assuming, the stronger that tendency holds true. The Imperial University, one of the best universities in the country, is famous for the deep bonds its graduates form. So is this a Imperial University college meeting that makes things worse? Why do superior people like to bond? Connections, networking? It may be because they take pride in being superior, but more than that, maintaining connections is the most significant reason. Well, yeah. All Imperial University graduates are elites in their respective fields. They are likely to succeed and become important people. When they do, The unity of their alumni association gains immeasurable meaning. In fact, even today, the Imperial University graduates maintain their tight academic clique, and they hold great influence throughout many different fields. Oh, don't tell me they're the ones holding up, like, all that kind of stuff. It's like talking about this. You interact with other universities as well, so the graduates' bonds are extremely tight, even today. Additionally, while Imperial University usually refers to the University of Tokyo, sometimes it's used to mean all 7 major universities in Japan. All throughout. They're located in Tokyo, Kyoto, Tohoku, Kyushu, Hokkaido, Osaka, and Nagoya. They are all great schools. There happens to be an organization of alumni that includes all those 7 universities. Okay. The elderly gentlemen in this banquet room were each from one of those organizations. However, not every graduate would get an invitation here automatically. Yeah. In the society of select gentlemen, in order to become a member, one must first fulfill several conditions, such as recommendation from an existing member, contribution to the society, possession of a status, and so forth. Oh, yay. Therefore, all the members are important people from different fields, and obviously the power of this organization is of a political nature. But there's one more very important criterion one has to meet to join. Strong patriotism, a heart that longs to contribute to Japan and its rebirth. Okay. As a result, this organization has become extremely nationalistic. Yes. Up on the stage, the candidate for the prefectural governorship was still talking passionately. You know, I just now imagine this person narrating, like, it's literally just meant to be just explaining the event, and, like, they're just they're not even there in the meeting room, they're just, like, explaining, like, somewhere around the world, this meeting's happening. But I'm just finding it funny, just, like, a journalist is, like, somewhere in the crowd, just, like, is watching all this happening, just, casually explaining all of this, like, through, like, bars with a goddamn, like, vent with a camera and just some notepad, honestly. Or is only just right there in the crowd, just, like, in a complete, good old disguise kit, pretending to be someone else who's been secretly disposed of, and I'm taken care of right now, or indisposed right now, and can come to the meeting in his place. And among those elderly gentlemen in the crowd, Takano can be found. Takano seemed used to this kind of conference, and seemed unsurprised at anything that was said. At the same time, she looked rather fed up with it. As she was in attendance, she must have been one of their members. Must. Which meant she possessed not only an extremely excellent academic background, but that the older gentleman here had acknowledged her equivalent contribution to society, and that she possessed strong patriotism. However, her academic background was the only qualification she had met to join. She was only able to join as a special case because of her connections. Yay. She didn't even hold prejudiced ideas like the other members did. So, why was she here today? Probably because of the same reason as the man giving a speech on the stage. Okay, so it's not anything for the Tokyo thing, because, like, literally, just in the sound of how she talking like that, it was literally just the whole reason why she went over the entire town itself was just because the whole god complex thing. I don't think I detected anything else of I guess how Tokyo, like the whole group Tokyo, and talked about revitalizing the the nation, all that stuff. I didn't sense that from how she spoke, even subtly or anything like that. The man of the state didn't actually have prejudiced ideas, much like Tokyo. Like, I just said Tokyo. Takano! Oh my gosh, Takano, change your name right now! The man on the stage didn't actually have prejudiced ideas, much like Takano, just playing the role then. He only prepared a speech that he knew the guests would like, and if it gets him in office, then yeah. Politicians only want votes, yeah. Each and every person has a vote, but appealing to each one of them takes too long. So the most efficient way is to appeal to organizations with a unified idea and a unified will. In other words, this man was giving this speech so he can garner support from those powerful people. The elderly gentlemen in the banquet room will then do their best to support him, since he appears to share their ideals. They can offer many different kinds of expediency, support, and assistance. To an outrageous degree, I might add. Yay. If the day's event continued in the same way, the organization would likely decide to officially support him. Okay, well, good for him then. They will probably give him a great deal of financial aid, too. They'll assist him in different ways as well. Of course, the man on the stage won't be the only one getting something. Yeah, probably from the sound of him, even if he was lying about this whole speech and all like that, he'd probably keep that, like, sort of pretense up, like, for the rest of his campaign until, he get elected, and that's when he came for the dime, honestly. It's that whole thing, honestly. When he wins the election and becomes a governor next year, the organization will welcome the governor as a new member and gain even more political influence. Well, if he's like going for that, I guess goal, honestly, then it makes sense. Like, even if he doesn't believe in all in all, then he'll just keep the facade of belief, then I guess. But then after a while, just fake it till you make it. Then, would that technically be bad, or just be like undercover or police officers like pretending to be like like a drug dealer or drug user, honestly, just to get in and bust other people, honestly. Like keep a steady contact and just my day job is pretending I'm a nationalist who wants the entire world to sit to my whim, and by night I'm just like, the fuck have I gotten myself into? And eventually the organization will become so powerful that nobody can ignore it. Those of you reading this right now probably get the sense that they're no mere alumni association. Oh yeah, before we even start talking about Mr. or Mrs. Narrator. You'd be absolutely right. After reaching this level, they are a fine syndicate. No, they would be a secret society if their group wasn't so open about its activities. Now, I'm sure some of you readers are brushing this off. I think there's no way such a suspicious organization could exist in Japan. There's a lot of things like that. Everything I've explained is entirely true. I want proof, Ryukishi07. I want proof. Do you have photos and goddamn like video transcripts of like you breaking into a secret society? I want the truth. Slams fist down. Give me the evidence. There are several such influential groups and organizations within our society. And you need to understand that they hold powerful political clout and influence our national policies. Some are alma mater cliques like the one I described above, and right now. Others are scientific societies serving different parties, industrial groups, adversarial committees, religious organizations, community service groups, and so forth. Also, there are right wings and left wings, the hawk and the dove. Okay, I know the whole thing about the right and left wing politics stuff, but the hawk and the dove is a new one. Okay, we're putting animal genealogy and party stuff in there. I won't go listen to your specific names here. Yeah, you probably read them every now and then in your average newspaper. Not the hawk and dove. I'm now intrigued by that. What? In Japan, the terms for such forces aren't very common. Most of your readers probably think of a suspicious organization wearing white hoods when they hear the phrase secret society. No, like when you say it like that, I just think of one group in particular. And I'm pretty sure I think everyone wants them gone. Or at least anyone sense anyway. And laugh it off. But unfortunately, that's a huge mistake. In America, where there's far more territory and citizens, there's way more groups like that, yes. And they possess such vast influence that ignoring them is impossible. So the terms they use for such forces don't just apply to those in the scale of this syndicate. Sometimes people say that such groups have more power than the White House, and they are referred to as the shadow government. Yeah, I can see why people would think that. Even here in Japan, we had a shadow government before the war, our Zaibatsu. After we lost the war, the GHQ dismantled those blocks, but 40 years have passed since then. I'm just not, like... I can just totally imagine just, Ryukishi just puts in, like absolutely fake secret society stuff in here, and I would probably, actually kind of buy it for this world building, honestly. He's, saying it all like it's true, honestly, about nothing else to, say it off of, so, yay. After we lost the war, the GHQ dismantled those blocks, but 40 years have passed since then. There's no guarantee your country hasn't given birth to another shadow government, getting up goodwill collusion, groundwork, and backroom deals. Miyoto Kano was, in fact, attending a conference of such a shadow government. But where's the shadow government of this shadow government? It might appear to be a guest house with a huge golf course, but secretly, it's another nationalist group talking about things. There are no golfers in sight, though, but by appearances, that must be it. But appearances can be deceiving. Don't judge a book by its cover, apparently. This wasn't a golf course, but a huge backyard. Is it a backyard or a golf course, then? The guest house was, in fact, a very stylish mansion. Why'd you lead it with a golf course, then, if it wasn't a golf course, then? What? Normal people would be surprised to learn that this was a private residence. Oh. Whoa. The interior of the building was as lavish as the exterior. There were beautiful carpets on every floor, expensive-looking decorations on the wall, and expensive-looking bottles of alcohol on the shelves. That's the kind of room Takano was in. There was a knock at the door. An old man in a wheelchair and a young woman pushing it entered. As Takano stood to bow, the old man stopped her by raising his right hand. No, you don't need to stand up. Long time no see. Been telling you to come see me anytime, but you never do. I've been busy. It's great to see you, Kozuma-sensei. The old man sat down on the sofa with assistance from the woman. He was very old. His face was covered in wrinkles, and he could hardly do anything on his own. Even so, he still held a great deal of power and influence. Oh my, you haven't changed a bit, have you? I can see lipstick on your neck. Oh, my good god. Oh? Is that right? Good grief, how embarrassing. There was no lipstick on his neck. Okay, I was thinking of the collar, but the one who was helping him with his wheelchair was too beautiful to be a mere helper, so Takano had suspected something. As it turned out, her guess was correct. Although he was so old that he could die the next day, he wanted to stay sexually active until the very end. Even the Grim Reaper would think that's just absurd. Mio-chan, you become quite beautiful yourself. You're not a little girl anymore, huh? Oh, stop. If you really think that way, then why did you try to touch my bottom, What do you got to lose from having old guy like me touch your butt? What is happening? I'm sure you're plenty chances to catch a softer butt, don't you? Okay. Takano and the old man enjoyed a tasteless conversation. They'd clearly known each other a long time and were very close. The young woman came back in to serve tea. After she left, the old man started to speak. Anyway, I'm so proud of you, Mio-chan. I'm sure your grandfather in heaven is proud of you too. I hope so. I'm not even close to approaching the level of my grandfather's great work. Nakano-kun was unlucky in many different ways. The era he lived in. If he lived in a different era, I'm sure he would have finished his research. But he lived in that era, and, ironically, that was why he noticed the existence of the Hinamizawa syndrome. The world today is the nuclear era, with America and the Soviet Union glaring at each other over mounds of nuclear stockpiles. It takes nukes to have authority as major power. Yay. We'll be forever abandoning our nukes thanks to our 3 anti-nuclear principles. In this age, we are now a nation without nukes. How deplorable. In the middle of the 20th century, despite rising tensions between East and West, there was a temporary peace known as the Cold War, brought by the balance of nuclear weapons pointed at one another. Permanent memberships in the United Nations were monopolized by nations with nuclear arms. They secured their predominance with nuclear weapons, bound the world with nuclear non-proliferatory treaties, eternally banning non-nuclear nations from the world stage. For Japan to become a nation that can compete with the world, it must develop nuclear arms, or something just as powerful. Time to make a virus in for it. And that's what some people believed, at least. Realistically, Japan will never arm itself with nuclear weapons. I know. The citizens won't accept it. If the government ignored their opinions and armed itself with nuclear weapons, it wouldn't work. By abandoning nuclear weaponry, Japan gained the deterrent power of the United States. Deterrent power? Though some people thought the only way for Japan to become equal to the United States would be to get nuclear arms of their own. But realistically, that was impossible. Even Japan armed itself with nuclear weapons. That wouldn't automatically let Japan join the great powers. From the sound of it now. Don't know anything about the United Nations and stuff like that, so... That sounds like it'd be more complicated than that. Like, if just, like, a town just, like, managed to, like, learn and, like, sustain, like, make their own nuclear weapons, honestly. They can't just, like, all of them proclaim, we are now a country now. We have the nuclear weaponry. We're now, our own country, respect us. They really can't do that from the sound of it. That sounds... Not even just them barring the whole fact, like, removing the whole fact of, you're technically in another country's, like, land and you're taking over for yourself. That whole thing. Even barring that doesn't sound reasonable. Takano and the old man discussed the balance of nuclear power in the world. Eventually, the sound of the cuckoo clock reminded them to return to the main subject at hand. The old man pointed to the attaché case that had been sitting next to Kano. Takano nodded once, opened it up, and removed the contents. They were brand new bills patented. Where they good money, dirty money, clean money. How much was actually in there? A bundle of brand new million-yen bills that is 1 centimeter, so there must have been at least enough to make up 8 digits. I just thinking about it. Takano literally just destroyed the entire town itself. I mean, she took out the vaccine itself, but it's not a cure. I mean, she'd be affected by the symptoms of the disease anyway. When I'm, like, trying to pretend I'm, the whole entire town is, like, absolutely fenced off from the whole gas thing. So, how would that work? I mean, I don't know, like, how things would be different then, since, you technically know what the, symptoms are, but, like, even then, wouldn't you still, like, become, like, that anxious then if all was true? So, what was the plan there, I guess? I guess, like, she had those, more vaccines, honestly, to, like, make things, less, worse for her, but still. There are also 2 more attaché cases by her side. However, neither Takano nor the old man were surprised at all. Takano closed the attaché case and bowed. Thank you very much, Koizumi-sensei. I'll never forget about this. Money should be handled by younger people. I can't take it to heaven with me. I just hope this will be of assistance to you. Use it wisely. Of course I will. I'll use money only to make my grandfather's dream come true. I envy Takano-kun. What a wonderful grandchild he has. I'm sure he's bragging about you up there. I haven't done anything yet. I'll have earned this praise when I complete my grandfather's work. I'm so jealous. My boys are no good. They're only interested in making money. What really matters is how the money is spent. They contribute to the country is what's most important. And that's how you repay your debt to it, Oh, so are you saying that treating all those lovers so lavishly is also a way of repaying your country? Of course. When they shop, the country makes money. Money goes around, you see? However, those lovers would probably end up buying some foreign goods. Okay, that's funny. Things probably don't work quite the way this old man thinks to do. I guess the whole thing of other countries like make this thing and then port it over, honestly. It comes to I guess an organization that's in Japan itself. So I guess, but it doesn't work entirely that way. Man, it's a weird time when you get from being a child where everything seems simple in the world, and then the more you expand, like go into high school and learn about things, everything becomes so incredibly more complicated. Then even more so when you think about it and go to college. And then after you get to college, it gets even more out of control. And now back to here. Yay. Things probably don't work quite the way this old man thinks they do. To kind of chuckle to yourself. But the money I give to those women and the money I give you are completely different. I know that very well. You worked very hard. You retained trust and support from so many people. This is the first time I mentioned it, but Haruyama-kun and Mochizuki-kun both weren't sure about you because of your age at first. That's why I'm acknowledging your efforts, and that's why I'm giving you this money. I understand. Also, for me to give you this money means I recognize you as the official successor of Takano-kun's research. What, the rights went over to you then? Okay then. I wonder how the will, like, I guess rights for the research stuff, like, actually works then in Japan, I guess. Like, how it goes down, or like he was maybe the joint researcher, honestly, with him, Takano. With him, Hifumi Takano, honestly, so I guess then. Thank you very much. Thank you for believing in me. I truly appreciate it. No, don't mention it. His research is Takano-kun's, and yours too. I mean, it's your last name now. You wouldn't want anyone else to take over. So thanks to all your effort, I don't have to spend too much time convincing the other old folks. I know just remembering, like, her name used to be Miyoko. Like, I wonder why she got rid of the Ko part of her name then, just went to Mio. Like, well, just a nickname that she liked, stick with it, or just, Maybe this thing's symbolic about the Ko, how it was written her name that she didn't like? Kanji-wise, anything like that. Added all in all to the rest of her name. That's something interesting to think about. So thanks to all your effort, I didn't have to spend too much time convincing the other old folks. Completing my grandfather's research is the least I can do for him. Oh, sorry. Completing my grandfather's research is the least I can do for him. I won't begrudge any efforts toward that aim. Takano smiled, and she remembered everything she had to go through to get to this point. I can't imagine it to be a lot. Well, without saying, but the old men around Takano saw her as someone from their grandchildren's generation, maybe younger. Just how much trouble did Takano have to endure in order to get to gain the trust of those with such a large generation gap? The world may never know. It was hard to describe to those who couldn't even imagine her trouble, but Takano earned it. She gathered allies, drove away enemies, garnered support, and forced them to recognize her. She spent a long time establishing trust and rising to a status that the old men would welcome, which was all the more reason this meeting was a reward for her many days of hardship. Now that she had officially a powerful influence backing her, she could spread her wings and see the completion of her grandfather's unfinished research. Probably think about him. Doing all this would actually probably also encourage him. I guess her god complex a bit as she managed to appease all these people. Honestly. Well, now that you're officially continuing Takano-kun's research, you send the paperwork all over to Takano right now. Conveniently, you're not gonna die tomorrow by accidentally quote-unquote ruled suicide. Don't worry about it. There's something I need to tell you, Mio-chan. What is it? I'm listening. The old man paused and pulled an expensive cigarette from the cigarette holder on the table. Takano lit it up for him. She didn't smoke herself, but knowing that the old man did, she could have a lighter in her pocket. Well, consider it. The constant build-up of little gestures like that were how she gained the trust she held today. Yeah, actually, that adds a lot, yeah. Takano could notice the Hinamizawa syndrome in Manchuria, not Japan. Yes, according to my grandfather's journal, around 1940, he learned that many soldiers sent from Hinamizawa to the Kuomintang army expressed terminal symptoms, which led him to surmise an unknown infectious parasite dwelled in Hinamizawa. I still don't know exactly how it spreads and anything like that. It was bodily fluids, or really just air, water, food and stuff like that. I don't even know if we were told that. Huh. Actually, what makes him I guess Sadako more susceptible to it? What caused maybe just because we were passed on a Seath, or is it really just because of that? Because her parents died, then she was abused by her aunt and uncle. Then her brother disappeared. Does that actually add to that a bit? I guess so. It's depressing. Which led him to surmise an unknown infectious disease dwelled in Hinamizawa. Under harsh conditions of the war, people sometimes lost their mind. In those conditions, those who were sent to a far battlefield from Hinamizawa spent their days under duress, and occasionally they exhibited terminal symptoms, hallucinated, and caused twisted incidents. It all occurred in the extensive chaos of the battlefield. Every incident was handled separately, and no one suspected there was an underlying cause. Yeah, for those type of things, yeah, sometimes it's better to, I guess, lie. Because, if you don't, technically speaking, it causes a giant panic and things get worse. Yay. At the time, Takano-kun was working as military physician in the Kuomintang army. He's researching the prevention of such different infectious diseases. And one day, he noticed that several incidents of the deranged behavior were occurring among soldiers from the same hometown. He hypothesized that these symptoms were unique to those in Hinamizawa and began his own personal research. He hired soldiers from Hinamizawa as workers in his research center and studied them there. And then he learned of the unique Hinamizawa faith in Oyashiro-sama, and he was convinced that he found an infectious parasite with unique properties. Some may wonder how he could be so certain that these symptoms were caused by unusual parasites. In the beginning of the 20th century, German doctors proved that there were some unknown diseases were caused by bacteria and parasites. At the time, it wasn't too far of a jump to assume that unknown pathogens could be behind unknown diseases. Like, yeah, if you don't have anything else to think about, then you're gonna like latch onto what you think is the most, I guess. It's basically like if you're learning about anything new, you're gonna like try to latch like onto things which are more easier to digest. At least putting your own brain, honestly. You just latch into things that you know and then try to build off from there. That's literally how learning works. So yeah, makes sense of why they would immediately just assume them I guess disease back then or parasites. For instance, in modern times, it's been revealed that beriberi is caused by vitamin B1 deficiency. That sounds like advanced scurvy. The start of the 20th century made many loudly proclaim that it was the work of an unidentified pathogen. Yes, my grandfather predicted that his research would be valuable to the army, so he asked for a budget, but they just laughed at him. Yeah. As a researcher, her grandfather was very talented and passionate, but when it came to gaining the aid of political powers, he simply struck out. Hinamizawa syndrome. No. The possible existence of a parasite that affected the human brain and controlled emotions. Even though he made the remarkable achievement of discovering a mystery no one explained before him, he was unable to convince others of that achievement, and spent his life alone, unable to garner support and unable to achieve proper recognition for his achievement. Independent research has limits. Talented people, funding, and backup. A research project can be successful only if all those things are present. Takano noticed her grandfather's mistakes, and that was why she did everything she could to obtain all that. The military at the time was hoping for a low-cost, immediate-acting weapon. Yeah, if it was like the middle of the entire war, then yeah, that makes a lot of sense. While Takano-kun's research was extremely intriguing, it didn't meet the military's expectations. They probably don't want to, like, I guess, meddle with some research to a parasite, which they can immediately tell them it's not gonna bear fruits as quickly in the war as they hope. So, yeah. But I heard you were the only one who understood my grandfather's research, weren't you? In his journal, he calls you his best friend. We came from the same hometown. Oh wow, look at that. It was a miracle to run into someone from the same town on such a distant battlefield. Although we weren't close in age, we became very good friends. So we talked a lot. Many times he told me his research would be revolutionary, and asked me to lay the groundwork to secure funding for full-scale research. I read in his journal that you talked to many different people about his research. Unfortunately, its value was never recognized. I'm sure your support meant a lot to him. But I was never able to really do anything for him. That's why I want to help you, Mio-chan. Helping you is like atoning for my mistakes. Thank you very much. He's lucky to have you as his best friend. If only there were more understanding people like you in the military's upper echelon. It's very regrettable to think that my grandfather's life might have been different. The old man closed his eyes and paused for a moment. Shortly after that, he looked into the distance and spoke. Actually, that isn't true at all. He didn't try hard enough, apparently. The higher-ups were interested in Takano-kun's discovery. What? Never heard that before. Leans in chair. Why didn't they support his research? Something came up. They couldn't let him look into Hinamizawa syndrome. Okay. Only a few of the top brass and myself knew the reason. Now that all by myself have passed, I think I should tell you, Mio-chan, since you're carrying on his work. What came up? What was it? Takano believed until this day that her grandfather's research was ridiculed by everyone, which was the reason why it had never gained any recognition. Her grandfather had asked the military for funding so he can uncover the secret, Hinamizawa syndrome during the war. But just like the old man had said earlier, the military wanted an instant-acting weapon. That was why they weren't interested in his research. We don't want slow-acting, destroying from the inside with disease and stuff like that. We need immediate action like a nuke. That was what she had believed. As it turned out, the military had actually shown interest in after all. Before I go on, when you explain about the Kwantung Army in Manchuria at the time. While the Kwantung Army was stationed in Manchuria, opinions were divided on whether to advance their forces north or south. At the time, Japan had troops in Manchuria, but but opinions were divided on advancing north to deter the Soviet Union, or advancing south to expand our territory to secure resources. The Soviet Union and its predecessor, Russia, being a landlocked, frozen nation, they had long yearned for an ice-free port that wouldn't freeze over in winter. Okay. They had numerous attempts to expand their territory southward, too. Like, you made it sound like they don't want any ice on, but they just installed giant goddamn space heaters on us to unthaw everything. That's how it was phrased and sounded like to me for a second. Those expansionist policies are said to be a great cause of the Russo-Japanese War. In the history books, it said that Japan won the Russo-Japanese War, but it was actually a draw, ending in peace signed at the Treaty of Portsmouth. Both sides had simply set aside their spears and were mutually exhausting their forces. It wasn't like Russia capitulated and offered a complete surrender. As a result, the perception of the Russian threat continued to smolder. Later, the Russian Empire was overthrown by a revolution, but Japan was unable to shake the threat that the new Soviet Union would advance south. According to the history books, Japan went south. They signed the Soviet-Japanese Neutrality Pact and abandoned the northern advance. As a result, when the Great Patriotic War began, the Soviet Union was able to respond to pressure on their German front by pouring in their eastern forces. Though the Germans had managed to lay siege to Moscow, the Soviets launched a massive counter-offensive that reversed the tides of war. Even with the Soviet-Japanese Neutrality Pact, the Soviets couldn't tell if Japan would attack them at some point. Just in how much like they're talking about like going full end into like, you know, like I guess political world building, stuff like that now. I could definitely see why there's a bit of censorship then involving I guess some scenes throughout this entire series. Probably not just because like a lot of big ones and stuff like that, but it's about a bunch of sensitive topics that the publishers like thought of before. I can understand why, but some of them actually were just really interesting to hear about. Even the ones I've been told were absolutely worse censors than the console ports, honestly. Like this is the original, I guess the original writings, right? Like how I guess the author intended anyway. But the console ports either kept those in but then voice acted them, or they just removed those sections entirely then. I mean, there was the whole thing in the second chapter, honestly, of him talking about the canned flesh thing. And if I had voices on, I would have found them, oh, they don't have any voice lines here, honestly. So, wonder how much besides him, I guess, talks about religion and politics here. I wonder how much besides that has been, like, I guess, censored, because in the sound of it so far, it seems like the descriptions of, mutilation, stuff like that, and actual gory stuff, has been, like, kept in wholesale, which yeah, technically speaking, it sounds about right. Even with the Soviet-Japanese Neutrality Pact, the Soviets couldn't tell if Japan would attack them at some point. Because of that threat, the Soviets had to leave some forces in their far east, and they weren't able to devote enough troops to the German front. For starters, the Soviets had forged the Germany-Soviet Non-Aggression Pact too. Yet Germany broke the treaty and attacked the Soviet Union. To make matters worse, Japan and Germany had forged a military alliance. With all those factors in play, the Soviets naturally couldn't trust Japan to uphold their neutrality pact. Ironically, the Soviet Union was the one who broke the pact, but I won't go into that now. Throwing some shade. Yay. Throwing some shade far in the future of history. Yay. I probably should also try to understand more, I guess, as more high Eclinian stuff too, more, because from what little I've seen of Umaneko, honestly, too, it looks like the main characters there are definitely more, I guess, meant to be more higher class people then. And if the story's gonna go into this kind of subject matter as well again, oh boy, gotta get used to it more and more. Yeah. Exactly. Hitler signed the Tripartite Pact because he expected Japan to keep the Soviets' other front in check. But ultimately, Japan abandoned the North. With superior German offensive, many support the idea of waiting and watching it play out. They believe that even if we did advance north, it would be until Germany conquered Moscow. However, that plan was exposed to the Sorge. The Soviets transferred their heavy tanks from their far east border to the German front. That secured Germany's defeat at Moscow, The Germans began seeing a string of defeats starting with the Battle of Kursk. It was a turning point in history, huh? During the Cold War, the Soviet Union was recognized as a global power, but at least in 1940, the Kuomintang army didn't think it was a particular threat. Japan had earned a victory with the Russo-Japanese War. They took the new Soviet Union government lightly, assuming it would be stable after overthrowing the Russian Empire. That underestimation was corrected after the No Mon-Han incident in 1941. After several fierce, short-term battles with the Soviet Union's advanced mechanized corps that led to great losses, the Kuomintang army realized they shouldn't fight the Soviets, and they inclined Japan toward the Soviet-Japanese Neutrality Pact. At the very least, up until the No Mon-Han incident, the Kuomintang army was strongly conscious of the Soviets and divided advancing north or south. Next to that, there was also voices advising caution, suggesting we avoid an all-out war with China in order to shore up our forces against the Soviets. But the Sino-Japanese War broke out to the Marco Polo Bridge incident, right? We're like going to a long history lesson just to learn about why just to learn why this research, I guess, wasn't exactly publicly or officially given the green light. Then that's a lot. This is a lot. July 1937. The Japanese and Chinese armies are staring each other across the Lugao Bridge in Beijing. It was the middle of the night on July 7th. The Chinese army fired on the Japanese army in training, and they engaged in combat. They triggered the long Sino-Japanese War. Yes, according to historical records, this incident triggered the Sino-Japanese War, but with opinions divided over advancing north or south, the army was equally divided over full-scale confrontation with China. No, in fact, we even received orders from General Staff Headquarters to resolve the matter quietly before the incident grew much bigger. So those supporting the northern advance wanted to settle the Battle of Lugao Bridge quietly, insisting that conflict with China was pointless in light of their anti-Soviet strategy. However, those on the mainland supporting the southern advance using this incident caused to dispatch more troops to China. The United had hard policies against China, and thus the Marco Polo Bridge incident became the trigger for Japan and China to enter all-out war. After that, in their bitter struggles in the No Mon-Han incident, Japan greatly revised their Soviet strategy. They signed the Soviet-Japanese Neutrality Pact and secured the route for their southern advance. The Sino-Japanese War got worse and worse. If the Marco Polo Bridge incident hadn't happened, it's possible the history would have gone very differently. Maybe we should have ended up a war with them anyway. However, if the South faction didn't get the chance, the military authorities would have kept restraining the Soviet Union. The Soviets would have had to divide their forces between East and West. I hope you all know that I'm not comprehending all of this. I'm not a history buff. I'm not gonna have a good fun time remembering all of this. Oh my good god. And maybe Germany would have invaded Moscow. Then Japan could have gone to Siberia. The map could have been very different today. Germany wouldn't necessarily have won the war if it had succeeded in taking Moscow. Do we actually need to know all about this just to learn about the research thing? Okay. Do we actually need to know about all this? And England was keeping its strength on the other side of Dover Strait, after all, and the United States was poised to enter the conflict. Besides, Napoleon once occupied Moscow. In the end, he couldn't beat their winter and had to withdraw. And it was not the soldiers that had them beat, it was the harsh snows and blizzards drawing them back, pushing them all for the strong winds, all the way across the ocean. It is one of those ifs, huh? The Axis might have won the war. Yes, it's possible the gunshot from the Marco Polo Bridge incident changed the tide of history. Both sides had different opinions of who fired the shot, right? Was it secretly a third party who really wanted the war to happen? Was it a time traveler in the future? According to the Japanese side, a Chinese soldier fired a shot at a Japanese soldier who got too close to the Chinese camp. However, the Chinese side claimed the shot was a conspiracy invented by the Japanese military. But, nonetheless, the shot was fired. Even though nobody knew who actually pulled the trigger, it sparked the Sino-Japanese War. Isn't the butterfly effect fun? Yes. That's what history books say. But, Koizumi-sensei, What does that have to do with my grandfather? Yes, after all that fucking time. The Marco Polo Bridge incident, your grandfather was actually there. The shot was fired at a unit that was training in the middle of the night. Everyone was summoned for a roll call. They were missing one soldier. The soldier came back later, and it was said that he was sent as a messenger and got too close to the Chinese camp. By the way, did you know the soldier was from Hinamizawa? Okay, this is fun, historical fiction to work with. Okay, that's fun. That is goddamn fun. That is great, actually. That is fun. That is great. Huh? Really? When Nakano-kun was talking about Hinamizawa syndrome, he said that soldiers from Hinamizawa could suddenly fall into a deranged state. And we realized the soldier from Marco Polo Bridge was in fact from Hinamizawa. Then what about the first shot fired? I don't know the truth. I think it's possible that a soldier within a terminal state of Hinamizawa syndrome fired the shot. That soldier was killed in an incident. There's no record of it. Nobody knows exactly how he died. Or essentially, there's a war after all that. If it turned into a giant scale battle right then and there, it probably makes it even harder to discern who died. And I guess the fire to shot thing, if ballistics were a thing back then. When did ballistics get made? Honestly, they can't figure out that easily then. All the bodies, I guess, yeah, on top of everything. And I don't know the weapons back then too, so if both militaries decide to find and use the best kind of guns, honestly, and it turns out to be the same exact model, the government's figured on both sides of them, that makes things even harder. Yay. Plus the whole thing with the war of yeah, if they simply blame the other side for it, they probably would not do an investigation from actually what happened to the gun anyway. So yeah, there's probably gonna be nothing. By this point, the truth is lost to history then. The Japanese side claimed that the Chinese army had fired at them, and negotiated with that in mind. Just a scant few days after the incident, Japan demanded an apology from the Chinese, and as a show of force dispatched 3 divisions of reinforcements. The Chinese side was, of course, opposed to that. The situation escalated at once. If research into Hinamizawa syndrome continued, the higher-ups thought it would negatively influence the Japanese army's claims. So in order to avoid the risk of traversing the political gray zone, they rejected Takano-kun's research. It's probably just because right now, I can't process all this all at once. Is it talking about how his research technically wasn't put into effect because if it gets leaked or the Chinese find out about it in some way, then it makes everything with their claim even worse then. If the government realized maybe it was actually in their terms, actually. It's one of those things, again, demonstrate with Orya, that you cannot appear weak when you're in the middle of a war. Or when people tensions are high. It could go either way right now. So because of that, they refused to even consider my grandfather's research long after the war ended too. Yes, that's exactly it. I guess the war thing was too fresh everyone's mind then. Had to be long after the war ended before I'm starting all that off again because I'm hitting them some particular frayed nerves, I guess. The war is over now, but there are still some conflicts there regarding historical recognition. Takano-kun didn't mean for it to happen. If his research into Hinamizawa syndrome became public, it might cause a resurgence of quarrels over the long-ended war. Certain authorities were afraid of that, so they made sure his research was ignored even after the war. I was long warned not to aid him in any way myself. That's depressing. Takano tried to remain calm, but she couldn't help her stop herself from grimacing. She had just found out the real reason why her grandfather's research had been ignored. Because of secret maneuvers by political masterminds. And wait. So you're saying the whole reason why, Takano decided to go with the whole thing about Hinamizawa then, how this is being implied then, I guess, is saying well, the combination of God complex. She went into that, I guess, either to do the whole thing of him justifying all these deaths or anything like that. And also literally just as a political power play then. Okay. Alright then. If those masterminds feared it so much, ironically, that meant they acknowledged the importance of his research. Takano was saddened and frustrated to no end by her grandfather's lonely life. However, they are all dead now. I'm the only one who knows about all of this. You're about to keel over any second with the goddamn breeze of the wind. Close all the windows right now so we can finish this conversation. If Takano-kun was still alive, I was going to apologize to him and give him my unconditional support. But he's no longer around. I don't know how old you are, but I'm, yeah. You're like near 100 and stuff like that, or like your 90s, and I'm, yeah, good luck with that. That's why I'm apologizing to you and offering to give you my full support instead. Are you sure? Wouldn't research into Hinamizawa syndrome dredge up some of those same subjects again? It's different now. Besides, research into Hinamizawa syndrome may produce more than a mere local disease. But in your research, post-war Japan may gain a trump card that makes it a world power once more. So tides and times have changed then. That's right. Unfortunately, Takano-kun didn't live long enough to see that tide change. But he has you to continue his research. So, as long as I'm alive, I'll give you my full support. I promised to help Takano-kun, but because of various things, I couldn't do anything. So I want to make up for that as long as I'm alive. I think that's the least I can do for the man who called me his best friend. Koizumi-sensei, thank you so much. Oh, don't mention it. Literally just forget it from your memory. I'm glad I was able to tell you everything before I died. Anyway, until I'm gone, I'll make sure you get everything you need. Okay? So if anything comes up, be sure to let me know. I'll do anything for you. Takano couldn't even imagine what kind of bond this old man and her grandfather had between them. But thanks to that bond, Takano was able to gain a powerful supporter. Tears welled up in Takano's eyes as she gave him an emotional look. But in her mind, she was practically dancing the promise of the old man's full support. The old man and Takano both bowed at the same time to show each other their appreciation. Once that was done, the old man became a little more serious. After that far too lengthy preamble, you're telling me, he finally said what he really wanted to tell her. Okay, so you need to sign your slow this contract right here, slamming the table. So there you have it. This is what I wanted to say. The Hinamizawa syndrome has the potential to make history. It may even twist the fate of our country. So keep that in mind. And be careful with your research. Oh, this music again. Oh, I love this music a lot. Whoa. Okay, okay, I'm assuming this is a hotel, yes. This looks really fancy. I like the look of this place. I like the little telephone there with all that. Just I like the little branches for the decor almost everywhere, including it looks like the phone is giving that same exact theme. That's nice. That's nice. I like it. And to the proprietor finished serving the food, she bowed and left. The room was very tastefully put together, reminding them of a tea ceremony room. While it was sparsely decorated, quite a bit of money had obviously gone into it. This is a very famous Japanese restaurant. Ah, okay, so not a hotel. Sad. Why is there a phone in here then? Where many high-up officials and other important people held secret meetings. Takano was there, accompanied by 5 gentlemen. There's 4 chairs though. She was sitting slightly further away from the men. Okay, that explains that then, never mind. They're clearly in a much more important position than she was. One of the men, wearing an expensive double-breasted suit, told Takano not to be so nervous. Please relax, Takano-san. What we read is very interesting to us. I can't believe this research was just sitting there for dozens of years. It is surprising. I thought most of the research on the BC weapons the Japanese military conducted during the war failed to bear fruit. And nothing was left of the US military confiscated even the fundamental research. I heard this research was barely even glanced at by the top brass. I see. So, So either, was this disease actually just, put out of sight out of mind, or legitimately did, the US actually see this exact same, research of disease and just think it was all hooey then? Either just, completely hidden and, confidential to everyone, or literally just, no one took it seriously. It's one of those two. So that's why nobody knew about it, and GHQ didn't investigate it. In that sense, at least, it was truly unfortunate. Interesting that Dr. Takano's research would be succeeded by a different Takano-san. I suppose that's fate. It's like the disease is using your body to complete its life's work. Possession! Ghost! Everywhere! Maybe that's true. I feel a mysterious connection to him, too. Takano adored Takano Fumi and called him grandfather, but she hadn't revealed that relationship to others. She realized it wouldn't be beneficial for people to think she was involving personal feelings in her continuing Dr. Takano's research. So publicly, she once had exchanges with Takano Fumi, and after his death discovered his research documents with his remains and chose to carry it on. At least as the story went. Okay, so you're just going with that then. You just dug around through all his documents and then ooh, interesting stuff. I'll continue it on. Not the fact you information about this for years, honestly. Well then, what do you think? The defense agency was very interested. According to Nakagawa-kun, the Defense Agency's Technical Research and Development Institute showed great interest. They offered to sponsor the research too. I'm wondering now if every single name that's not blanked out in these more political leanings is actually to a real person or a fictional one. Because I'm now getting weirded out. There's some blank stuff, like, and now some other things, like these characters technically in the world building are that important in this fictionalized version of Japan. I'm now curious now if that's another reason of of some censorship now. I have to consider this now. Oh my god. That one politician on the stage blanked out. We don't need it. We don't need to add this kind of we don't need to add, like, stir the pot right there. But Nakagawa-kun, yeah, he definitely needs to be part of this. All of it. My god. Oh my god. We offered to sponsor the research too. Oh, that's wonderful. Congratulations, Takano-san. Thank you very much. Well, here's what they said. There's a research council for next generation deterrence being led by experts from several different ministries. One of those is called the Alphabet Project. That's an interesting name for it, actually. Have you heard of it, Takano-san? There was no way she'd know about something like that. It was very possible for these nationalists to research something dangerous without citizens knowing about it. Society formed something like a web made of connections between people. That makes the tips in the fourth installment actually even more poignant a bit, honestly. Man, I want to go through those again. Like, those are my favorite tips, honestly, through the entire series, actually. I don't give enough justice. And I'm still fucking sad we don't get tips for this game, too, apparently. There's, like, either just only one or, like, only a few at the very end. If I knew this was going to happen, I would cherish the last installment's tips even much more. You don't know you have until it's gone. No. Society forms something like a web made of connections between people. People hold hands with other people who share the same ideas and end up knitting a net, crocheting. Of course, some nets are well known, but there are some secret ones too. Like there's giant big spiderweb nets, honestly, going across the entire sky. And look at that. There's one net like overlapping there. Very keenly overlapping the other net. You can't even see. You have to look very, very carefully, but you have to know exactly where to look. So there's no way of guessing just how the men at this meeting were connected. A society involving research into deterrent weapons to the next generation. The Alphabet Project. With those words, it was possible to imagine what that might entail. It's also just funny, just like consider like this is all definitely like all fictional, just thinking about it. But it makes it even more funnier, honestly, if Rikishi basically with his goddamn pen name, we don't know his real name. He technically is a journalist and he knows all about this stuff and just leaking a giant fiction series. That'd be great. That'd be fucking hilarious. There has been actually like stuff like even though, like, what was it? Oh god, I can't remember what the product was called, but like it was the whole like Oppenheimer, just that movie, just like of the creation of the nuclear bomb, where like a lot of physicians were transferred to the desert, and it was complete under high confidential stuff of like making and learning how to make a nuclear weapon. some like writers at the time, like sci-fi writers and stuff like that, actually figured out something was happening just because, and started tying a lot of like smaller details into the stories. And the FBI got very suspicious and started researching and like looking into them and personally interrogated them. They just said like, oh no, we got these details from this public domain, information, all that. We just deduced things from there. And the FBI had to back off because literally they were right and they can't do anything else. And one writer, I can't remember their name now. Oh good God. When the FBI was like, leaving his room, he said, oh yeah, I know you're making something special in the desert here. Like, and what makes it probably all the more suspicious than how they knew about it is because suspiciously all the best and world known physicians at the time suddenly changed their address for the post and mail, all to one area in the desert for some reason. My good God, that's just funny to me. Are you hilarious or something? Cause like similar to that, if this happened in this game, that'd be so goddamn fucking hilarious. I want it to happen. Please, don't ruin my dreams now. I want. Yeah, that'd be so great. Deterrent weapons. That usually refers to nuclear technology. Weapons are normally used to destroy enemies. However, the general idea of deterrent weapons is very different. The assumption is that they won't actually be used against anyone. But deterrent weapons are mostly just there to deter people just by their very existence, or Nuclear weapons are largely used as a threat to prevent any enemy invasion. Both the US and Soviets possess large stockpiles of nuclear arms, keeping each other in check. More as nuclear legs then. But they will never actually use them. It's just deterrents, yeah. Because they did, there'd be a nuclear war, and both countries would be destroyed. And look at that, and the rest of them, but if both those, like, if two large countries technically destroy each other, would the other countries then decide to swoop in and like, ooh, nice land, I'll take. I can imagine that. So they're like a legendary weapon you never draw. Of course, that last resort only works because both sides have nuclear weapons. If one side lacks them, then they lose all military negotiation power. In other words, nations without nukes are powerless before nuclear-armed states. The only thing you can do is just have, like, ally with someone powerful or anything like that. It's like, just some, I guess, hug onto their lapels or anything like that. Hold on and grasp for dear life then. That can't be true. Japan abandoned nukes and it still functions as a nation today. Or so some people may be thinking. But they're wrong. They're wrong! Japan abandoned nukes, but lies in a nuclear umbrella by allying itself with America. Yeah. That means the nation functions thanks to America's nukes. However, that also means we must resign ourselves to forever being a vassal of America. In order for Japan to escape that and become a powerful nation equal to America, it must possess its own deterrent arms and step out of that nuclear umbrella. That society must have been put together by experts who believe in that ideal. Given that, even the name Alphabet Project makes sense. From A of America to J of Japan. A to J, okay. Nuclear weapons are weapons of mass destruction. However, weapons of mass destruction aren't always nuclear. They also include biological weapons and chemical weapons. Atomic, biological, chemical. Initials of these three words make up ABC. Really riveting stuff. That's why weapons of mass destruction are sometimes called ABC weapons. I won't go into weapons of mass destruction that don't belong to those three categories, but I want to know what's D through Z. I want to know. Like, it's the one thing I want to know now. You call it like this. It's an interesting framework for it. ABC, alphabet. In other words, Alphabet Project must be code for research into weapons of mass destruction. The AP. As it happens, this guess at Takanos was correct. By rights, Japan should possess nuclear arms. We establish ourselves as a peace-loving nation to the war, and after our vast international contributions, we've been recognized as a permanent member of the UN. Yet until we possess nuclear arms, we won't be recognized as a proper nation. So you got everything but, I guess, power and name. You got every other requirement, but not the one involving we can kill all y'all in an instant. Don't worry. That's a weird... Until you have a weapon that can kill all of us, we won't recognize you as someone equal to us, apparently. That's an interesting way to look at things right now. If you don't have a gun when I have a goddamn shotgun or anything like that, then you're not fit to be in my presence. That's a weird way to look at things. At least we can put it down from the politics of a sphere, and guess more just person to person. That just sounds hilarious. Exactly. However, realistically, thanks to the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, major nations hold a monopoly on nukes. Worse, our domestic public opinion is growing alerted to nukes, so foreign and domestic pressures make implementing them impossible. Biological and chemical weapons are sometimes known as the poor man's nuke. Small countries that can't own nuclear weapons have already started research into that chemical weaponry. Takano-san, please don't misunderstand us, okay? We're not trying to, create weapons to kill everyone. We're not. The purpose of our research isn't to obtain a biological weapon. Instead, our goal is to prevent such weapons from coming to Japan from other countries. By researching into making your weapon, then. So this is research into self-defense. I want you to understand that. Yes, I'm aware of that. Takano hates this Japanese tendency to make excuses. Yes, I literally just made that same thing again. But she didn't let it show on her face. No matter what they said, they already saw the value in using this research toward biological weaponry. However, in truth, that was just an excuse as well. If they actually wanted to research biological weapons, then it would have been much faster to research diseases like smallpox and anthrax instead of an unidentified disease like Hinamizawa syndrome. So it wasn't exactly correct to say the defense agency was interested in it as a biological weapon. Not a biological one, but I guess a political one, I guess, then. In other words, Takano needed a powerful sponsor who could back her up with funding, personnel, and a facility to conduct her research. So, she used her connections and turned to the old men behind the government and economy, reaching out to each of them, and getting them to forcibly pull funding out of the defense agency under the excuse of its application toward biological weaponry. That was the truth. Therefore, her project wasn't officially recognized by the defense agency. To be exact, the people who secretly controlled the defense agency were the ones who knew about it. These masterminds diverted funding from the defense agency to the Alphabet Project. And then they pushed for Takano's research to be part of it. Takano gets her funding, and the influencers get to drain public funds through the kickbacks. Okay. Considering that, it was doubtful this project was genuinely about researching the next generation of deterrence arms. This project is an excuse for the masterminds to funnel money into their own pockets, such as advanced embezzlement. That's actually another interesting take on it. That's actually kind of cool. Well, those complicated matters didn't matter to Takano. As long as she gets what she wants, it doesn't matter what happens to other people, honestly. And at least it's always going to be like something, even now when you think about it, even not to a political level, there's going to be some point where just the fact that you getting up in the world just puts someone else down. Eases them way out morally or anything in your own brain, justification-wise, things like that, or legally-wise, what you did to get to this position was right or wrong. Yeah, there's a whole thing of competition and stuff like that. There's a winner and there's always a loser. If you want to take the philosophy to extremes, and you get some people those kind of villains who always want to win, even when just because they don't want to lose anything, even if they don't lose too much, they just don't want to be deemed a loser and stuff like that. So, whatever those old men influencers were planning wasn't her business. As long as she could get the funding of her research, that was enough. Exactly. Either way, Takano had found her sponsor. It was one of the biggest organizations around too. This had always been her grandfather's dream. Takano was trying to stay calm, but she was able to jump up and down in excitement. Nakagawa-kun says that once the research gets underway, he doesn't mind buying it out. Okay, is Nakagawa actually going to be a unique character for the rest of this chapter, or is it really just a name just for this conversation? That would be so hilarious just for this conversation, just outing just one person with that last surname for this story. Although it's still incomplete, he definitely sees potential in it. You're absolutely right. This research is only halfway complete. Sufficient funding, faculties, and personnel will be indispensable. How about that? Here's where the negotiations start, but apparently they wish to take on this research in its entirety. I feel bad saying this, but I think the burden is too much for you to bear alone. Hearing that put quite the damper on Takano's ecstasy. I'm not trying to make money off this. I'm working as a researcher purely out of intellectual curiosity. What I need is a sponsor. What they seek are results. That was a relationship I had hoped to establish. Takano realized she was talking rather breathlessly, so she tried to calm herself down. So they already have, like, I guess, either take this agreement, or then shove it and just leave, and you won't get any kind of research then. Either way, they'd be backing the research. Considering they hoped for results that merit the budget, they probably feel that Takano's still too young to handle it. It goes with that again. How old is Takano actually? He's like mid or late 20s, early 30s. It looks like around that range to me. Weigh him up. I'm terrible when it comes to like guessing ages and things like that, so don't talk to me about that. Especially for more stylized character sprites too. I know. You've been working in this for a long time, and you don't want anyone to grab it from you, right? I totally understand that. Of course, we already informed them. So here's the compromise they came up with. First, so your research as an offshoot of the Alphabet Project. Once you have the board of directors' approval, you'll be given official funding. While you participate in the project as an associate researcher, and you'll take part in the research that way. She wanted their funding just to fall under their authority, of course. So far, she had no objections. However, the Research Society has listed a few conditions in exchange for funding this project. Okay, oh boy, what is this special thing then? First of what just mentioned is to entrust the position of lead researcher to an individual skilled and talented in this field of research. Leads into maybe like I guess Eri then, or Tomataki then, I guess. I hate to interject, but who could be more knowledgeable about this than me? Other than the late Dr. Takano, of course. No. Please calm down, Takano-san. This is still a fair question, honestly. I understand how you feel. Still, how's this any different from selling my research to this individual? This isn't what we discussed at all. Calm down, Takano-san. Those cunning old men didn't miss sight of the faint leak of anger that crossed Takano's expression. They gave evasive laughs, as they were remarking how mature she still was if she let her emotions show over such a little thing. However, they weren't laughing to look down at Takano. On the contrary, they were trying to tell her to wait until the end. Of course, we'll make sure you get your way. Kozumi-sensei told me to take good care of you. Do you think I would just ignore you after you told me that? Don't worry. Please, let me work things out. I'll make sure you'll be happy. What do you mean? You see, I get to select the person in charge. Everyone chortled except Takano. For a moment, she joined in. In other words, he meant that he would just find the right person, someone more manipulatable for Takano to lord over then. But it's literally just this person is gonna be, I guess, defend off everyone who thinks like she can't hold off the research, but in totality, they're kind of incompetent in some other ways that she can technically swoop in and still be the technical literally, it's like talking about all the shadow government stuff. We have someone who technically is the leader, I guess, of this product, but she's technically the shadow leader of it all. That's another way to put it. Okay, shadow monster woman, shadow monster man. The defense agency had suggested finding an expert to lead the project because they didn't feel comfortable with just Takano. However, Takano's sponsor was the one tasked to find such a person. In that moment, Takano realized it. Oh, how wonderful it is to have such a powerful backer. Let me work it out. I'll find some candidates for you. All you have to do is pick the one you think would be the most suitable onto the table. Don't let anyone else know about this. Takano felt better just hearing that. While she wouldn't be the official head of the project, in name, she would end up leading it from the shadows. Basically. Of course, she wasn't an expert per se. Having a partner would actually be beneficial. Give me some time to talk to their end. I'll make sure you'll be happy with the outcome. Please, just be patient for a while. If, technically I can't remember what the roles that Eri and Tomataki technically had. And honestly, in some capacity, it feels like both either of them could actually technically be the one chosen for the project, and Tomataki's just the one. Tomataki was, I guess, it's the messenger to like go back and forth between the different lines. Then does it mean Eri actually was the leader of the project then? Like he was the one there like at all times actually working it, so it makes sense. Okay. I guess in some capacity it also makes sense why Takano then went like then started to date like Tomataki, and then he just thought like it was always just Eri like leading everything else, but technically it's always her in the shadows then. And just by her dating him, like she can also mess around with the product itself even more further up, including to how the budgeting and funding can go to, honestly. Especially with I guess when she learned about I guess the men dogs, honestly, like that, then from Tokyo, then further manipulate things to her own advantage to publicly look like it was all Eri's fault from how every single installment ends, while also still just getting primarily away with everything then. What's something that what was she planning to do afterwards when she faked her own death then? I mean, there's the whole like media blackout for some deaths actually. I wonder if that's the whole reason why like she put herself in the timing block, because whoever died there would just be lost to media, and the only people who would know are like higher government officials, and even then she both has a powerful governmental ally to actually make sure doesn't become too much of a deterrent from what she wants to do later on, and yeah, it actually works out a lot then, huh? Like, if it wasn't for like murdering a lot of different people, honestly, I'd find this very interesting and commendable. Again, I mentioned several times before, manipulating people to get what you need. Sometimes like it's the most unnecessary evil in some cases, and sometimes it's actually kind of fun. And definitely in this case, it almost like feels reminiscent of him like finding it funny that like the other thing that just they touch upon in this series is with Reina's father, like like giving money to Rina, and it goes to that again, like that whole sort of like manipulation thing, honestly, giving into a service or anything like that, and the other side is taking up more than they need to. Although I kind of just hate Rina for more reasons than that, but it comes down to just how she handled things, everything else. It just comes from extension of outside of action, stuff like that. So stuff like that. Give me some time to talk to their end. I'll make sure you be happy with the outcome. Please, just be patient for a while. I understand. Thank you for everything. Oh, by the way, it's not just the defense agency. Nagata-kun from the Ministry of Health and Welfare is willing to help you too. Again, real life names. Again. Look all these people up in the 1980s, apparently. Oh my god. He just made a Itoi-kun from the National Institute of Infectious Diseases. He's willing to help you with equipment and other technology. Really? Thank you so much. This is a national product, isn't it? Congratulations, Takano-san. It's all because of your effort and deceased Dr. Takano's hard work. Oh, no. This is all because of Dr. Takano. I haven't done anything just yet. Being humble is a good virtue. Just like Koizumi-sensei told me, you truly are a nice person, aren't you? Oh, you're on good terms with her, then yes, technically speaking. No wonder he adores you. Anyway, they want you to join the defense agency. Luckily, you have a doctor's license, right? We'll secure your position as a medical officer of the TRDI. Do you mean I'll be a public servant? I wasn't expecting that. All the organizations that are involved with the Alphabet project are public institutions. The SDF is actually interested in this research as well, and they're making strong requests to dispatch some of their personnel too. So depending on the circumstances, you may be treated as an SDF member. From all of this, my first question is, how big is the Erie Clinic then? from what we've seen of it, it looks like a small, like, looks of it in the name of it, a clinic actually, that it looks like just like a very small doctor's office, but it's something like this big, again, of like how they mentioned before, of like the basin. How big is it? How many floors is this goddamn building in then? Oh my good god. How they hide it? How did the citizens not notice, like, hey, how did the residents of Hinamizawa not see, like, after, unless, oh, the building was being made before the damn product, never mind then. Oh my good god. Oh, I forgot Erie was already there, like, when the damn conflict was happening in Tinder 4. Oh, how many floors are in the Erie Clinic now, honestly? Are this like just gonna be, like, some heist thing? I mean, like, technically, like, Reina already did his whole thing of, like, saying, police, investigate Erie Clinic because something's weird happening there. She technically had the right idea, but the wrong reason for it. And then, with what we know of, Rika knows that Takana's behind it all, more reason to infiltrate the goddamn hospital clinic. Yes, come on, let's clear the entire place out. Smoke bombs, bats to the head, just get everything out of there. Quote-unquote peace of protest, don't worry about it. The peace of protest don't require it because they're gonna kill everyone in the village anyway, so don't worry about it, don't worry about it. The SDF is actually interested in this research as well. They're making strong requests to dispatch some of their personnel too. Depending on the circumstances, you may be treated as an SDF member. Well, just think of those matters as officials squabbling over jurisdiction. So to stand above those officials, you'll need your own official position. No matter what, we'll make sure you'll be happy, so please, don't worry about anything. I understand. I'll let you work things out. But knowing Dr. Takano's research was once rejected by the old Japanese military, it's hard to believe that the self-defense force is interested in it now. Well, that couldn't be stopped. With the war situation worsening, the Japanese military sought something with immediate effect. Something that could turn the war around. Yeah, that makes more sense, honestly. I don't think they were looking down on Dr. Takano's research, but then it got tied in with actual, like, large-scale political stuff too. But that wasn't true, of course. Takano already heard that confession from the old man. Meh. She exhaled. To her, it was like the meeting in front of her was happening somewhere far away. She had longed for this day to come, and worked so hard to reach it. Finally, her grandfather and his research were retaining recognition. This was the day she had dreamed of. So, she was frightening just imagining that it might be an actual dream. True joy can't be felt all at once. Oftentimes, it's a delayed reaction. Takano thought that must be exactly what she was feeling. I imagine you'll probably be given a field officer's rank. Since you'll be second command, you'll likely be a major. That's wonderful. Major Takano, huh? I'm a little jealous. Well, just how you phrase like that, then some of these people are actually, like, one-up her in some sense, I guess, then, from how, you worded it that way, Mr. or Mrs. Theus narrator. As a man, I wish I had a rank like that. Boy, oh boy, Major Takano, huh? A major? What does that signify? Well, it's reasonably high in the rank system of the self-defense forces. It's like a sub-manager at a company, I guess. That'll be your rank once the project gets underway. It's equivalent to a lieutenant commander in the old Japanese military. What a coincidence. Coincidence? I think not. Dr. Kano was also lieutenant commander in the old military. It's fate, providence, stuff like that. Good God. Takano remembered suddenly. They were right. Her grandfather had been a lieutenant commander in the Japanese military. Everything she had done until today was so she could continue her grandfather's research. Not everything had fallen into place. She had even been granted the same rank as her grandfather. She'd always believed that succeeding his research would be proof that they had a bond tighter than blood. And now she would even be the same rank as him. This is fate, Takano thought. The more the fucking series talks about that, the more I get fucking conflicted about fucking fate destiny. Stop it! Maybe this is even a message from Grandpa. Yes, it must have been a shadow of encouragement from heaven. It was proof that she inherited not only his research, but his will as well. Nakano couldn't help but feel a sense of destiny for attaining the rank of major. Fuck, he says destiny. Grandpa, I'm finally here. Nobody else could hear her say that, but her grandfather in heaven could. That's what Takano believed. She had only come so far. There's still a lot of things to do for this research to be recognized as a great work. Otherwise, her grandfather won't become a god. Oh, okay. She wouldn't become one either. You must become a god. That wasn't her grandfather's will. You must become a god, my daughter. You must become a god. Become a deity. If you don't, then you are a failure as my daughter. Oh my god. I was unable to do so. That line preceded it. It was her grandfather's dying wish. Her grandfather trusted it to her. All of his research. A god can't be physically brought back to life. A god is made in the hearts of the people who remain alive. Her grandfather will live on in her heart. His exploits will be known to many, and all the scholars will fight to read his documents, to steal them from each other. And they will learn about Hifumi Takano, who began his research during the war. They will know that nobody understood him, and that he ended up devoting his lonely life to his research. And finally, they will extol his grand achievement. Again, I'm conflicted thoughts about Fate Destiny stuff, honestly. Because when I think about Fate Destiny, like, even more of, like, you know, it was started all the way into the past, honestly, then 2, makes things more complicated. Weight of History got one step closer. If, like, you think of Fate and Destiny as, like, in the moment type stuff, I guess it's more fine. But every time I've seen people do the whole thing of Fate and Destiny, like, all comes down to, like, you know, the very beginning of life, or, like, you know, from years in the making. And then when I just think about that with how many terrible things have happened, then it's a brain aneurysm to think about, honestly. It's nice to think about here, and, like, other situations like that. Like, where technically Fate and Destiny is given, like, you know, solace to one person in some form, but then gives everyone else shit for it. It feels weird. Eh. And again, we don't get any more goddamn tips for this goddamn chapter. No. No, I'm so used to it. No. They got rid of it. How could they? No. And it feels weird we're not gonna get any tips for a while. Especially, they changed the look of the tip menu here. It just feels weird. Like, there's only gonna be tips revealed, I guess, later on. Just one or none at all, then well, there has to be at least one anyway. But still, why would they change the entire tip menu if there's only gonna be a few at the very end of it? Why? Why? Oh boy. Yeah. Okay. Oh boy. Okay then. But I do know that when it gets to, like, it's the final chapter for this, I'll probably, like, definitely take way much more breaks just to put a lid on that as well. Especially since I didn't have a lot of issues when I'm doing, like, more longer scale, like, I guess episodes, honestly, like that. But I'm starting from last time, but just because I've been talking a lot, or I'm just we just need to remind maybe at some points, maybe that goes to my voice, stuff like that, and just makes things more scraggly and haggard a bit. So when it comes to that, probably I take way more breaks. Whether that last installment, like final chapter, honestly, is like the same, like 5 or 6 hours, or even longer than that. Whether it's gonna be that long or anything like that, it's gonna be. I'll take way much more breaks, honestly. Than that my throat and voice is already scratched right now as it is, and I'm oh boy. Okay. Well, these are good. We're now at this point we just learn, I guess, how I guess technically the first show is all about showcasing and like establishing that Mio is going to be the person we're focusing in on. We learn, I guess, how she was in her childhood, how she escaped from like an orphanage, or a bad one looks like. Whenever all kids actually escaped. Eriko better have fucking escaped. Best minor character in the entire series so far. Again. She better made it out. She better have, or she better have a better life now. And we're just learning is how she got to where she is with a collection of like being, I guess, being adopted by someone who had like I guess some like strong connections, and then her grandfather like not being able to get her research down because like both the government couldn't really give money or attention to it because of like both political reasons and war reasons, honestly, even continuing after years of the war ended, honestly. It only was after like they all died then they can actually do and change anything else about it then. Hmm. Yeah, like at least it shows like how she got to here, and I'm assuming that's where she chose Erie to become part of the product, and that's how he immediately moved to Hinamizawa. It's like itself then, and then yeah. Hmm. Hmm. I'm just trying to think like now how it even like Rika would actually be able to like get some both, even if like forgoing the whole fact of she'll get everyone her friends on her side, honestly, because if they like carry over the whole ever remembers some stuff, remembers memories a bit, then at least from I guess her like longer memories in the other timelines, like like Keiichi and Reina and Shion like technically killing people, and Mion and Sadako just like they're like I don't even know what's happening. Like they'll probably get those on like them on their side, honestly. Like literally just from the sound of like if Shion like technically it's on board with that, even Keiichi remembers it. It feels like that Mion would then be either pressured to like goes along with, well, if you two have that same feeling, then I must believe it then too. And of course, like Sadako technically is already like good friends with Rika, so like that'll get everyone on their side. And then there might be some small doubts then if like technically if Mio is technically the one involved. But Rika, this could all be mitigated. All be mitigated if you just sit down and explain to everyone that KJ no UTB Stark is secret. I know what you've done in the past and in the timeline. I know what you've done. I know you thought about this one time. I know you're trying to sneak away from me so you can eat that muffin alone when I made it for me only, and stuff like that. Like literally just use the loop to your advantage. Don't keep doing the whole thing of pretend to be like try to act like you're completely normal this entire thing. Because literally how it looks like actually just thinking about it, how would like the entire how the last installment work, even if like everyone believed it, the whole miracle thing by the end, including Hanyo, how would all that work by the end, especially since even if like they got rid of Takano right then and there, they still have to deal with entire other military dogs fort and all that, and then they'll still have to somehow contend with a giant political group at the time. They somehow have to literally just telling the prime minister to kill and like make up a cover up case for Hinamizawa itself. They somehow have to manage to completely convince them larger scale the literal president of the nation to not do it, all in the span of an hour or a single day. I'm not sure how they will all do that. Maybe pull some strings when they finally actually manage to get Solace inside Mion's house and things like that. And like even if they probably can just like immediately break in the place and make sure they cut the phone lines and stuff like that, or just like stop communications they able to, stuff like that. Kind of lead to that. The more I just think about this, the more I'm just wondering exactly how they might be able to get all that done in a single night or day. Maybe they could like just lead him Oreo, just like Mia, and just him leading a message to him any like like politician in the next area would lead to that. But if they like if mm, and also lead to the fact that the mountain dogs like take things over and then like think of the fly then and do their best to kill Rika and then just like blame the entire thing on everyone going crazy because of that then and oh boy it just leads to their whole thing entirely if from they'll probably believe their research like from years in the past against someone technically does have power in a damn movement but like who now has power both in the general area of Japan but also was technically a thorn in the government's side from the Dan conflict. And with that, and someone who's technically a group that's technically working on like a disease that really has infected everyone and might make everyone go crazy when one person dies, or they get so suspicious about some people. Who exactly are they gonna believe? The group that has the group have before even the government had any involvement with research into the virus? Would they believe the entire town residents itself, including the Sonosuke group, or would they believe literally a research government officiated group which works for them is working there to research the disease itself, who is saying don't believe all of them? It feels like another like almost impossible circumstance, which at least it feels like it can be done, but I don't know how you'd be able to do that in a single night. The only thing that I guess they can do is like if as somehow Mion and Rika in some capacity like both realize what's happening going on and find a way for them to either like for the mountain dogs completely and utterly abandon their guess product right here or at the very least delay it. That's literally the only thing you can do, but I'm having a hard time thinking of any plausible thing to think about how to stop that. Probably just because I don't have a lot of political knowledge and stuff like that, so it's probably that. But I'm even thinking of like trying to get that on my brain, trying to think of other things. Honestly, it's probably just because I don't know the whole length of that. So I'm maybe there's actually a bigger thing which I'm completely missing that I'm make sure that everyone gets out of this. There's a good chance of everyone doing. Hmm. Hmm. I'm interested to think about it even more, honestly. I gotta look at a lot of different things now, honestly. It's just smaller things that get an understanding of. And all that. It's gonna be definitely also great to get some watch those video essays I mentioned before, like at the end of this installment, and we'll just go into the like I guess the epilogue chapter is just to talk about things much more, honestly. Be really fun. That'll be really fun. But I'm assuming for the next chapter we're also gonna talk a bit more about showcasing how Takano managed to get everything set up inside Hinamizawa itself, and then maybe at chapter 6, or like just one or two chapters afterwards, we'll finally get down to the main group of Keiichi, Shion, Mion, Reina, Rika, Sadako, and Hanyo. Sixth group member. Sixth group member. Nice. Aw. Oh boy. But I guess we'll see what happens with Takano and forming this entire new research team all for next time. So, hope one time watches I am playing this. Hope to see you next time, the time that may be. And I hope you fantastic day.